Welcome to the third video in our Chicago Manual of Style series. In this video, I'll show you how to create footnotes and cite images. Like we discussed in the CMS overview video, footnotes are a type of citation, or a way of telling your reader that you're using an outside source in your writing. You'll need to use them whenever you use a direct quotation, or whenever you paraphrase, which is when you restate an idea from another source in your own words. So, if you're writing a research paper or even a reading response, you'll likely need a lot of footnotes. Alright, let's take a closer look at how to set these up. The first step in creating a footnote is to click at the very end of the sentence that you're citing, after the punctuation even. And this is the case even if the information that you're citing is at the beginning or the middle of the sentence. It'll always go at the end. What you do next depends on if you're working with Google Docs or Microsoft Word. If you're on Google Docs, you can go up to Insert, then click Footnote. If you're working with Microsoft Word, you should have an option up here that says References. Click that and then click Insert Footnote. Either way, you should end up with a superscript number and a corresponding one at the bottom of the page, and this is where you enter your citation information. The information that you put there and the order that you put it in really depends on the type of source you're using, so a website will look a bit different from a book and so on. To find out what you put in your footnote, always refer to the Liberal Arts Writing Guide. You'll find that the footnote is more complicated than just inserting the URL or providing the name of the author and of the work. You'll need to make sure you're getting exactly the right information and that it's punctuated correctly, that it's formatted correctly, and so on. Once you open this guide up, you can scroll down to the footnote section. From here, you can find the type of source you're using, and then use the example listed as a template for your own footnote. Note that when you're setting up your footnotes, it might take a little bit to find all of the information that you need to enter. If you're working with a journal article, for example, you might need to hunt around in the publication information at the beginning or the end of the article. We can always help you set up footnotes at the SLC, so if you're having any problems, please make an appointment. Also know, though, that sometimes you'll genuinely not have a piece of information that you need. If you're working with a website, for example, it's entirely possible that you won't have the author's name or the date that it was published. If that's the case, don't worry. Just move on to the next piece of information that you do have. The good news is that you only need to use a full citation like this the first time you use that source in your paper. If you use it anywhere else in your paper after that, you can use what's called a short form citation instead. The exact formatting of short form citations differs a little bit depending on what kind of source you're using, so always double check in the guide. In general, though, it'll be the author's last name, a comma, and the first 4 main words from the title. It looks like in this case, our title is short enough that we can just include the full thing. If you're using the same source but a different page number, you can indicate that in the citation as well. The idea here is that you're giving your reader just enough information to know which source you're referencing, but they already have access to all of the information in the first footnote and in your bibliography, so you only need to include a little bit of information moving forward. That's how to insert footnotes. Now let's talk about citing images. If you're using images in your paper, you can either put them all on the same page at the end of your paper, before the bibliography, or you can insert them in the text itself. If you do decide to insert your pictures in your paper, always make sure the text wrap feature is on. You don't want big blank spaces. Next, you'll need to enter some information using what's called an image label. This will go directly under the image, and it should be roughly the same width. To find out exactly what goes in your image label, take a look at the Images section of the Liberal Arts Writing Guide. There's one last step in citing images, and that's to number them. You'll notice that at the beginning of this image label, I've written Figure 1. This means that it's the first image that appears in my paper. The first time I mention this work of art in my writing, I'll need to put Figure 1 in parentheses at the end of the sentence. That way, the reader will easily be able to see which image corresponds with this idea. Let's review. The way you insert your footnotes depends on the word processor you're using. In general, though, you'll be able to find the option somewhere at the top of the page. The first time you cite a source in your paper, always include a full footnote. Any other time you cite that source, though, you'll be able to use a short form citation instead. When you're citing images, you can either put them on a separate page before the bibliography or within the paper itself, as long as you're wrapping the text around them. Insert image labels underneath the images, and they should be about the same width as the image. Always number your image labels, and number the sentence where you first refer to the image in your paper. And whether you're working on footnotes or you're citing your images, always use the Liberal Arts Writing Guide. Never try to remember the format for these, because it's so much easier to just look it up. In the next video, which is the last of the series, we'll be talking about how to create a bibliography. If you have any questions or you'd like to schedule an appointment, you can email us at learning@rimcad.edu or self-schedule at rimcad.mywconline.com.